You from Wisconsin? All right, welcome to the Rowdy.com Big Three. I'm Buzz Cutler, sitting beside one of the most famous sports writers in all the world, Matt Crossman, writes for the Sporting News. You can read his stuff online and in the magazine. Thanks for filling in.
Well, thanks for asking me.
Issue number one, the 5 new nominees to the Hall of Fame were announced. One of the things I think a lot of people were surprised about last year is that a guy like Bud Moore, certainly deserving of being in the Hall of Fame, but that he got in before a Cale Yarborough or a Darrell Waltrip. Do you think that the NASCAR Hall of Fame should create a veterans committee to take care of some of these older guys who may not be household names without having to take the slots of some of the better known and maybe in some ways more deserving drivers?
No, I'm not sure I would do it that way. I think part of the fun of a Hall of Fame is the debate, the arguing who deserves it, who doesn't. I will say that a year later, I still can't believe Cale Yarborough and Darrell Waltrip both didn't make it. Now, if one of them had made it and the other didn't, you could say, okay, they chose one or the other. But for both of them to miss it, it's basically punishing them for what happened outside of the race car and outside of performance-related issues, and that's preposterous. This idea that Cale Yarborough retired from driving and disappeared, so therefore we're going to hold that against him and make him wait to get in the Hall of Fame. That sounds so petty and small when you say it out loud that a year later you still can't believe that it happened.
What I heard, the rumblings, and I talked to one of the voters, is that some of the older voters wanted to make sure their peers got in before it was too late, so to speak.
And I don't have a problem with that in the sense that that's somebody's opinion. But to put somebody in, and I don't want to come off like a jerk when I say this, but to put somebody in before he passes away ahead of somebody who deserves it more, that diminishes the achievement. If he doesn't deserve to go in at the moment and somebody else is more deserving, in my opinion, the most deserving person should go in.
Let's move on to issue number 2. We got this big announcement, all Canadian race team, go Canada, eh? From Toronto, I think. Steve Meehan, big investment fund guy, is starting this team up, and the gimmick, and I think it is a gimmick, is that it's going to be all Canada. Driver, crew chief, sponsors, ideally, will be all Canada. What's their chance of making noise?
None. I think if you look at the recent history of NASCAR and startup teams and startup drivers, there's no record of success with it. That if you're going to do well in NASCAR, you almost have to exist already. And even the companies that have come in and tried to take over NASCAR teams have just spectacularly failed. And if you want to look at the new drivers who have come in and done well, let's look at Juan Pablo Montoya. Well, he came into a team that was established, and he's been good, but he hasn't lit the world on fire. And he's a world-class driver that everyone would say is in the top, let's say, 10 drivers worldwide. This Canadian team has a guy that, quite frankly, I've barely heard of, and I cover the sport for a living. So to expect them to come in and do anything, they're just not going to.
Well, what is it? I think Darrell Waltrip said once, the way to make a small fortune in NASCAR is to start with a large fortune in NASCAR. Yeah. I think if you want to take NASCAR international, and I think that's a great thing to do, but let's do it with the Cup guys. Let's go to Montreal, the Gilles Villeneuve.
Nice. Well done.
Let's run on that circuit. Let's fix the Mexico City course so that it can sustain, a top-tier race. Let's not try to sort of bring them to us. Let's go to them.
I also think that, going into international countries at some point becomes cost prohibitive. That it costs so much money to get there, and you saw that with the race in Mexico City, that it costs so much money to drive the trucks there that at some point you have to say, this is a whole lot of hassle, and what are we getting out of it?
All right, let's move on to issue number 3. Carl Edwards is still the biggest prize on the free agent market. He's, testing the waters. He's listening to what people have to say. What's the over-under on him re-signing with Roush, you think?
I would think it's pretty high that he'll return for a couple of reasons. First is that, if his stated goal is to win a championship, that's the strongest team, at least during the time that he's making the decision, that's the strongest team. That's point number 1. Point number 2, they have a car, so there doesn't have to be this sort of create out of whole cloth team. I mean, he can't. What are his choices? Hendrick to win a championship. Hendrick, Gibbs, Roush, RCR. Am I missing anybody?
No.
Red Bull maybe, but Red
Bull's a project.
Yeah. So Hendrick doesn't have a car. Gibbs at the moment doesn't have a car, although just about any big team could probably make one for him. So that's why I think
Childress doesn't have a car.
Right. So there's no openings at any of those places. And Roush, it doesn't have an opening because he's in it. So I think he'll stay there.
Right. I mean, Gibbs could start a fourth car for Carl Edwards, and you got to think they would if they had a chance of getting Carl Edwards. But if, as you said, right now, Gibbs is underperforming. Their engines aren't performing the way they should be. Denny Hamlin is struggling. Joey Logano is underperforming in terms of the expectations coming into the season. Kyle Busch is the only bright spot over there, and that's, because he's Kyle Busch. So why would you jump from Roush to go to Gibbs right now? Why would you jump from Roush to go help build Red Bull into a championship contender? It doesn't make sense. Plus, I think Carl Edwards feels a sense of loyalty to Jack Roush. He plucked him out of obscurity and gave him a shot. All right, well, he's Matt Kenseth. I just called you Matt Kenseth.
You know what? I would be dressed a lot nicer. Matt Crossman.
Matt Crossman from Sporting News. I'm Buzz Cutler from Rowdy. Thanks for watching.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.